All right, the first story at the top of antiwar.com today. The U.S. blows up another boat in Latin America. So the U.S. military blew up another boat in the waters of Latin America on Wednesday, an attack that comes amid growing congressional scrutiny of the bombing campaign. U.S. Southern Command said in a statement on X that its forces conducted a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel in the eastern Pacific Ocean. The command claimed without providing any evidence that the boat was carrying narcotics. SOUTHCOM said the strike killed 4 male narco-terrorists, which is the term that they use to justify these extrajudicial executions at sea, because that's what this is. The Pentagon has previously admitted to Congress that it doesn't know the identities of all the people it has killed in these boat strikes. So according to numbers released by the Trump administration, the attack brings the total number of people killed in the bombing campaign to 87 and marks the 22nd strike and the 23rd boat that has been destroyed. 11 of the boats have been struck in the Caribbean near Venezuela, where the bombing campaign started, and 12 have been hit in the eastern Pacific. The strike came after a small group of U.S. lawmakers saw the video of the September 2nd boat bombing, which was the opening salvo of this campaign and involved multiple strikes to kill survivors. Representative Jim Himes, a Democrat from Connecticut, he told The Intercept, quote, "What I saw in that room is one of the most troubling scenes I've ever seen in my time in public service. You have 2 individuals in clear distress without any means of locomotion with a destroyed vessel who were killed by the United States," end quote. And members of Congress, as we've been covering, intend to investigate the strike to see if a war crime took place. Although, as we've been saying, this entire bombing campaign is completely illegal. They're claiming that some opinion from the Justice Department is their legal justification, but they've kept that opinion secret. And of course, the march toward war with Venezuela continues. And the next one here, Hegseth ousted admiral who raised concerns about boat strikes. So Admiral Alvin Hoseley, the commander of U.S. Southern Command, who abruptly announced he was stepping down in October, was pushed out by U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and this was reported by the Wall Street Journal. The report said that Hegseth and Hoseley were at odds during the first months of the administration, and the tension intensified when Hoseley expressed concerns about the murky legal authority for the bombing campaign against alleged drug boats in Latin America. And here's a picture of Hegseth and Hoseley together at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba back in February. Hoseley also objected that parts of the operation fell outside of his control, since other military units under separate chains of command were also involved, including elite special operations units. Earlier this year, Hegseth was unhappy with Hoseley for not drawing up plans to reclaim the Panama Canal quickly enough, and suspected that the 4-star admiral may have been involved in leaks of potential U.S. plans for the waterway. So that was something that they were at odds about, according to this report, earlier in the year. And then things heated up again between them when this bombing campaign started, and he expressed concerns about it. So Hoseley has not given a reason for his early retirement, which is a highly unusual move for a career military officer just 1 year into a 3-year term as the head of a combatant command, as the head of U.S. Southern Command. And when he first announced that he was stepping down in October, the New York Times reported that he had raised concerns about the boat strikes. And then we have this report saying that Hegseth actually did indeed push him out. So the next story here, video of U.S. military killing boat survivors is horrifying, according to U.S. lawmakers. So this is from The Intercept. I mentioned a little bit of this in the first story, but this article is from Nick Terse. I'll just read a little bit of it here. So Lawmakers who saw a video of a U.S. attack on wounded and helpless people clinging to the wreckage of a supposed drug boat on September 2nd described the footage as deeply disturbing. A small number of members of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and the Senate and House Armed Service Committees, as well as some staff directors, saw the recording during closed-door briefings Thursday with Admiral Frank Bradley, the head of Special Operations Command, and General Dan Kane, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This is the same quote here from Rep. Himes, saying that it was one of the most troubling things he's seen. Until Thursday, the only video of the attack that had been seen by lawmakers was an edited clip posted to the Truth Social account of President Trump on September 2nd, announcing the strike, which captures the initial strike, but it does not show the second one on the wreckage of the vessel and on the survivors, which was first reported by The Intercept. Himes said that the unedited video clearly shows the U.S. striking helpless people. And I saw, one person who defended this, who saw the video and defended it, was Tom Cotton, who, of course, I think Cotton gets excited whenever he sees people getting killed. But he said, according to him, there was 4 strikes. He said it was a righteous strike and that the first strike, the second strike, the third strike, and the fourth strike were all justified. And this is this is what the administration seems to be saying now, is that the boat was bombed and then the people were, the 2 survivors who were blown into the water, were trying to get back on the boat to get to the radio. So they were still in the fight. So they were still, this is the argument that they're making, as if there was some kind of fight going on here. There was no fight. This is not war. This is murder. These are just executions committed by the U.S. military. But that's the argument that they're making. Also, Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island, the top Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, also expressed dismay after watching the footage. He said, quote, "I am deeply disturbed by what I saw this morning. The Department of Defense has no choice but to release the complete unedited footage of the September 2nd strike, as the president has agreed to do," end quote. So they might be releasing the full footage. I do see these senators like Jack Reed, I wish they would get this outraged about Israel tearing apart children in Gaza with American bombs and intelligence, and the bombing campaign in Yemen earlier this year. Of course, everything Obama did in his drone wars. But this is, for whatever reason, this is the thing. This has become a big scandal, a big story. They're going to go after Trump and his Pentagon through this way. So this story is not going to go away. And one reason why is because this is new. Bombing boats in Latin America, this is a new thing. It hasn't become normalized like the war on terror. This is the war on terror. They're literally just extending it now to Latin America.